I, 43M, have been living in Chicago for the last 2 years for job purposes. My wife, Jill, 39F, and our 9-year-old son are put in our hometown in Houston. Pre-pandemic, I used to run a garage with my friend while Jill worked as an executive. We didn't make much, but it was manageable. We lived in our own house. I had inherited it from my family. My parents retired early from their day job and went to live on our countryside farm to lead their lives in peace amidst nature. My father loads up his truck every 2 weeks with all the dairy products, fruits, veggies, and potatoes, depending on the season, grown on his farm and ships it to us. So yeah, we save a lot there. Life was smooth. Bam! COVID hit and we lost everything. Everyone went indoors, there were no cars on the road, and people were selling off their vehicles because they couldn't pay their mortgages. Our garage followed the same fate. We had to shut it down and close the lease because we couldn't pay the rent. Jill's company also got shut and she lost her job. Our only hope was the grains, vegetables, and milk we were getting from my parents' farm. Yes, we had savings, but that was wearing out sooner than we thought. The government and local communities sponsored groceries and other essentials, and it saved people like us. When things started opening up, I thought to take up a job because setting up the garage all over again in that condition was not possible. But to my dismay, most of the garages were permanently shut down because the owners could not pay the mortgage. The ones that were running were not hiring new employees or any employee for that matter. The business was low and the owners themselves were running the show. Same was the case for Jill. She too didn't get back her job. After a lot of struggle and cold reach, finally one of my distant cousins told me that there was a vacancy at his workplace, but that was in Chicago. It was a job at a car manufacturing unit, the pay was good, and besides I had no other option than to take this job. We had almost no savings left and there was no hope of finding a job in Houston. I left for the job, leaving my wife and son at home. The company gave me food and shelter and I got 15 days leave every 6 months to visit my family. For the first year, it was smooth. Despite the distance, Jill and I were still very close. She always motivated me to work harder so that I could move them to Chicago. I was living in a dormitory provided by the company. Though the factory was located in the suburbs, it was still expensive to bring family here. We both knew that it was a long journey, but we were hopeful to be living together shortly. After my long working hours, talking to Jill was the only thing that kept me refreshed and going. Things have started changing after my last home visit. 6 to 7 months back, Jill got a job at a startup company. I didn't notice any evident change except that she was not available for me every day. It was understandable. Earlier she was a homemaker so she could make time for me every time I called. Now with her job, this was unrealistic to expect. However, I noticed some changes in her when I went home during my last vacation. She was way too guarded about herself and her phone. She was not talking freely and I felt like she was careful about whatever she spoke. This wasn't the case earlier. Yeah, before that, when she first started her job, she had a tough time with her boss. She's a secretary at a CEO's office. She works for a startup run by young just out of college graduates who are very rude to their employees. Jill couldn't take the harshness and resigned after a few months. After her resignation and her long email about a toxic workplace, her CEO called her back, promising to mend his ways. A lot of employees were leaving the company because of his bad attitude. Her earnings were a cushion for us. She used to save most of it because I provided all the household expenses despite her job. It expedited our process of living together. She withdrew the resignation and rejoined. Things got better for her and she told me that her boss was now way more polite and respectful. It looked sorted. Fast forward to 3 months back, Jill told me that her boss, the CEO, was going for a 5-day investors summit in Dublin and he wanted Jill to accompany him. She denied it initially because she couldn't leave our son alone for 5 days, but her boss has offered to let our son accompany them at the company's expense. Honestly, I have no idea how these corporate companies operate, how they could afford to spend so much on unnecessary stuff like this kind of travel, but anyways, I left it for Jill to decide. She said it was important for her career and she went. I may sound possessive, but I felt uneasy about her trip but didn't say anything. She called me regularly and kept me updated during the trip. I FaceTimed with my son daily and we did that too during the trip as well. He was very excited to visit a new place. It was his first time outside Houston. Eventually, I eased up. There was no evident change in Jill after the trip, nothing that I read in the confessions here, like ignoring me or becoming cold, etc. I wouldn't have been writing this if I didn't go home last month. I didn't tell her the exact date of my visit. I wanted to give her a surprise. I had done this before as well, but this time she was more shocked than happy to see me at the door. Her face didn't light up on seeing me, it was grim, though she pretended to be excited, but you can make out this subtle change in your partner. Then she was very guarded about her phone and about her own being overall. When you meet your partner after 6 months, obviously you want to get intimate. Every time she used to pounce on me on the same very night of my visit. But this time, she seemed reluctant. I asked her what happened. She said nothing. She behaved like a virgin schoolgirl who just coordinated the entire action, feeling guarded about herself and without taking any initiative. I don't know, I felt she was scared about something I might find out. I confronted her, but she didn't acknowledge that there was anything unusual. But over the next few days, she became normal. Not very proud to say this, but I snooped into her phone that very night after she slept. No, there was nothing. The chats with her boss had nothing except work-related stuff. No suspicious phone calls, and the gallery was clean. When she was out for work, I asked my son the details about the Dublin trip, and nothing came out from there either. I came back to work after the holidays, happy and satisfied. A week ago, Jill again told me she was going for a 2-day work trip with her boss to Florida, and this time without our son. He has his exams which he can't miss, so he will be living with my in-laws for those 2 days. I don't know guys if I'm being a jerk here, but I really don't have a good feeling about all this. I asked her who all were going. She said it was just her and her boss. Her company has 2 founders, but she goes with just one of them every time. I find it very weird. I don't know if I'm being a moron to suspect her, but I just don't want to ignore the red flags early on and get fooled. Has anyone been in this situation before? Any advice/pro tips highly appreciated. Update 1. Hello all, it's been quite a while since my last post. I connected with a lot of men who were deployed outside their hometown, and they faced a similar situation. Seeing my circumstances, most of them suggested that I give Jill the benefit of the doubt because I couldn't find any substantial evidence suggesting her cheating. I did that. After her trip to Dublin and Florida, she went on many more work trips to cities like Amsterdam, Seattle, etc. Surprisingly, never in Chicago, where I live. A month ago, I got my second promotion, a long-awaited one with a substantial hike. I was so delighted when it was announced. I immediately called up Jill and told her about this, but her reaction was far from being happy. And you know why? Because this meant she and my son could move in with me. I asked her if she was not happy that I got my long-awaited promotion. I worked here for 4 years, double shifts on most of the days to earn my promotion so that I could be with my family again. She said she was happy about the promotion but was not sure about shifting to a new place. She said she had worked so hard to rebuild her career and now she didn't want to waste it again. I suggested she could get a new job in Chicago, but she didn't like that idea. She said she was expecting a promotion and had worked her ass off to make a name for herself in the company, and now she couldn't leave it without a promotion. It didn't go down well with me because she was pushing back a lot. I mean, if I had the chance I would have definitely left my job to live with my family. Her salary was a quarter compared to mine and she could have got a similar paying job easily here, yet she was not ready to leave her job. It led to several fights and arguments between us, but she shifted her reason towards our son, that his school and curriculum would be disrupted. My son is a soccer enthusiast and has been getting trained at a community club. I assured her I would find him a good training club here, but she was reluctant, saying shifting here would mean a complete disruption in our son's life. Some of her reasons made sense, but I felt she never wanted to share a house with me. Finally, we came to a conclusion that we would wait for another year, save some more money, and then think about this decision. 2 to 3 months into this, and Jill tells me that she wants to move to Chicago with me. I asked her what happened all of a sudden. She said she had just changed her mind and our son needed me. Few months back, when we were fighting over this, she reasoned out that we shouldn't disrupt our son's curriculum. At that time, our son's class academic year had just ended and it would have been easier for us to get him admitted to a new school in Chicago. Now his new academic session has started and it would be so difficult to get him admitted mid-year. I told her to wait for this year and they could come next year, but she got adamant about living together. I asked her about her job and she said she was ready to quit the job. Family is more important than anything else. I really don't know what is driving this change in her, but I definitely suspect something fishy. She has even got to a point where she's ready to delay our son's academic session by a year. I discussed this with some of my local colleagues here and they assured me that they would help me in getting my son admitted mid-session. I'm planning everything else to bring them here with me, house setup, car, school, etc. But deep down I feel she is not doing this for me. There's something else. I'll update the thread if I'm successful in getting through the truth, else it might just be my overthinking. Update 2. Hello everyone. So, it came out that my wife was indeed cheating on me and I found out everything when she shifted with me in Chicago. As I mentioned in my last update, she suddenly told me that she wanted to move with me and that she was ready to quit her job. I was both happy and suspicious about the entire thing, but I made all the arrangements for them. My cousin who referred me to this job, helped me in getting my son admitted to the same academic year. He also helped me procure an affordable rental apartment. So, Jill and my son shifted with me and I couldn't be happier. Whatever suspicions and doubts I had in my mind, it all vanished when we started living together. It was a happy time. However, as time passed, I realized that Jill was not the same woman I had married. Yes, time changes all of us, but it was not a good change. She became snappy and guarded. Whenever I confronted her, she said she was missing our hometown, friends, and family there. I too was living away from family for so long. I kinda empathized with her, but one night, I found her weeping over the phone. I eavesdropped on the conversation and realized that she was pleading with someone to take her back. So, instead of hiding or investigating anything, I just confronted her after she was done with the call. Yes, I heard it all and it was quite clear. I'm glad that she didn't lie or manipulate the situation. She confessed everything. It happened so that her young boss fucked her, quite literally. It started on their first Dublin trip. After a successful investment deal, they got so happy and drunk that they lost control and did that. After that, they did it every night after our son fell asleep. This disgusted me so much that I wanted to punch her fucking face right there. They continued to fuck even after the trip and every business trip they have been together. It was more of a fucking trip. That was the reason she didn't want to leave her job. However, when she told her boss that I wanted her to be here with me but she had refused because of him, he got scared and told her that he wasn't serious about those physical things. He asked her to prioritize her family over him. She flipped out. Though she knew it was just for fun, somewhere she felt hurt that he wasn't as involved as she was. He even showed her the woman he had been dating casually. So, Jill was basically his sex toy. Isn't this evident? It goes without saying that he wasn't going to marry her or ever get serious about her. I don't know what she was thinking before trading off her marriage for cheap sex. When the CEO didn't reciprocate Jill's feelings, she took it to her ego and quit the job. This time he didn't even bother to ask her the reason and released her. Looked like he desperately wanted to get rid of her and her resignation made things better for him. She thought he would beg and plead with her to stay. Why would he? He is the owner of the company, he can have many girls lined up for him. Why would he run after her? Jill was an easy source of entertainment for him and he exploited it. She was a fool to take him seriously. Now, she is calling and pleading with him to take her back and he is asking her to move on. It amazed to know that she was ready to be his mistress. She was telling this over the call. I asked her how she was able to pull this cheating for so long. She said their conversations were face to face, and they worked from the same cabin for 8 to 10 hours a day. Makes sense. That was the reason I couldn't find anything on her phone. Neither she texted or called him during my 15 days home visit. They were together for half of the day, why do they still need to talk over the phone? Her boss was anyways not emotionally involved in her, so talking wasn't needed. He wanted actions and she used to give him that in his cabin. Yes, she told me that. They had regular sex in his cabin, bolting the doors and switching off the cabin camera. The revelation made my head so heavy. I asked her to leave me alone. It was already morning by the time our confrontation was over. I slept through the day. When I woke up in the evening, I saw that she had made my favorite food. She acted so normal and said we could start over fresh. I said no way, I was here, working my ass off day and night for a better life for my family, and she was there getting down for her CEO. She acted shocked when I uttered the word divorce. She was like, how could you do that to me? I left everything for you. I stood by you in the struggle days when you made nothing, and now when you're earning well, how could you abandon me? She did support me in distress, but she also faltered and cheated on me. I too did my part of being a good husband. Long distance was difficult for me too. I too was craving for family and sex life, but I didn't choose infidelity. She did. She kept saying sorry and making all sorts of promises, but I didn't back off. I told I'd be booking tickets for her return and would send the divorce papers soon. Thank God, I had a prenup with her, which is gonna save a lot for me. Details for next update. Currently, I'm not in a stable mind frame. I left the house and have been living in the company's dorm. We'll make the final update after sorting out this mess. Update 3. Hello everyone. Thanks for all the support. People commented that I missed the red flag and that wives cheat in long distance relationships. Not taking any offense, but guys, I was alert from the start, noticed the slightest change in her behavior, and discussed that openly. I called her daily and had transparent conversations every now and then. I even checked her phone whenever I visited home. I don't know what else I should have done to avoid the cheating. So yeah, my divorce proceedings have started. I had booked their tickets to return back home. My son is too small to live alone without his mother, and with my working condition, it's not possible for me to take care of him. Besides, he was away from me for so many years, it's not the best thing to keep him with me. I'm hoping when he grows mature and understands things, he will understand me. Jill pleaded with me that she had lost everything and didn't have any means to live on her own. I offered to let her stay in the house until I was back in our hometown. We had a prenup that she cannot claim my property in a divorce popping out of cheating. So she cannot have my house. I agreed to the child support for my son. So she gets nothing from the divorce. Even after she for Houston, she kept contacting me, asking for one last chance to fix our relationship. She was hopeful that I would forgive her for the sake of our son. Now, yes, people do that. They forgive their cheating partner for the sake of their children. Call me egoistic or whatever, I wasn't ready to take her back just to give my son a false illusion of a happy marriage. Finally, after a lot of tussle, the divorce was finalized. She got away with nothing. She lost her job. Her boss has not given good feedback in her relieving letter. He mentioned her being flaky who resigns at the drop of a hat without any reason. She resigned twice in her tenure without reason, so she is not getting offers from good companies. Also, the market condition of the corporate industry is not so good for the last 1 year. She sometimes sends me voicemails that I have ruined her life. I don't care. Neither I have blocked her. I want her to know that I hear everything she says. Still, I'm unmoved by her misery. I want her to know that I don't love her anymore. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Caught my wife cheating on me with her affair partner while we were on a camping trip. My wife, 26 female, was extremely competitive with her twin sister. I, 32 male, noticed pretty quickly that she compared their jobs, houses, community involvement, style, self-discipline, and even spouses. Yes, she even compared me to her brother-in-law. In these comparisons, she usually claimed herself the higher achiever, and her sister merely a close second, but in certain things, my wife wasn't as confident and looked to me for reassurance. To my dismay, she didn't seem totally convinced that I was the better catch. After talking about her brother-in-law's career in law enforcement and weightlifting dedication, she got quiet, and inevitably started giving me hints that she wanted me to do some of the things he was doing. I was fit and lean, working as a van driver and handyman in a small, privately owned construction company. I wasn't making very much money, but it was enough to pay half the household bills. My wife covered the other half with her various social media platform sponsors, and a part-time job as a makeup saleswoman. When she started comparing me to her sister's husband, I lost it. I told her she was lucky she had such an easy way to earn money and that she owed it to the fact that she was born with a beautiful face, and learned how to charm and manipulate people. She was pretty upset with me after that, and didn't want to listen when I said I was working really hard and it was only a matter of time before I got a pay increase. It wasn't long after this interaction that I noticed my wife's increased interaction with her brother-in-law. They were commenting on each other's posts and pictures on social media. I knew he was texting her because I saw a preview of his text pop up on my wife's phone before she grabbed it. Everything came to a head when I saw them at a cookout together. My wife's entire family was there, so it was crowded, but out of all the people my wife could have been catching up with, she was standing side by side with her brother-in-law. As soon as I went to the bathroom, she disappeared to find him. By the time I found her, they were smiling and talking intimately. Irritated, I scanned the crowd for my sister-in-law. She was oblivious to what her sister and husband were doing. Since my wife was distracted, I went through her purse to find her phone. I took it to the bathroom and had time to read and screenshot a plethora of messages that spelled out their emotional and lustful affair. My wife admired him for his bravery and self-discipline, physical fitness, and flattered him in a variety of ways. Some things she never even said to me. They sent each other nudes, and that's when my hands started shaking. Their most recent messages were plans to meet at a cheap motel in 4 days, when their spouses would be working. I couldn't believe what I was reading because my wife, as I knew her, would never be so heartless or inconsiderate enough to have an affair with her own sister's husband. Yet, it was clearly happening. I waited until after the cookout to text the most crucial screenshots to my sister-in-law, along with a message that suggested we wait to ambush them at the motel with additional family members. She was completely shocked and devastated, so it took some persuasion to get her to agree to keep it a secret until then. When the day came, she and I, plus 10 other family members, including their parents and members of App's family, sat in our cars and waited for them to check in. They were riding in App's car, looking as giddy as a newlywed couple. As soon as they started walking towards their room, key card in hand, all of us got out and started walking towards them. I remember I was the one that got their attention first, followed by the rest of the family. When they saw us, it looked like they were struck by lightning. They froze, gasped, locked up, and needed to change their drawers. My wife's sister started screaming at them, which made her husband drop to his knees, trying to reach for her hand in desperation. My wife did not know what to say. She didn't like being wrong, and she was clearly wrong in this, for her entire family to see. She just started saying they didn't do anything, over and over again, trying to yell louder than the other family members and myself. I finally showed her the picture she sent to App, and that made her shut up, but she still didn't want to accept this shame and guilt. She turned and tried to speed walk away, but her uncle stopped her and called her a homewrecker, scolding her for ruining her sister's life. He demanded she face her and take accountability for her actions, but she just screamed and kicked when he wouldn't let her go. She ran down the street crying because she didn't drive to the motel. App was willing to do anything to win back the love of his wife, but she refused to maintain a broken marriage with someone she couldn't trust. I felt the same way, and even though my wife wasn't begging my forgiveness at the time, she called me howling when she received divorce papers. With the screenshots and entire family as my witness, she couldn't claim her innocence, and she finally broke down. She admitted she made the worst mistake of her life, and that she never should have been comparing her sister's life to her own. Even though they both regretted it, my wife and App were shunned from the family, never to be contacted again. Without her mom, sister, or dad, my ex went down a metaphorical hole and never maintained the image that paid her so well before. She started smoking and drinking, while I got a huge promotion to assistant lead in a growing construction company.